Masculinity is outdated. Real men don't act like that anymore. Or the classic, times have changed. But let's cut through the noise. The truth is, traditional masculinity isn't just relevant, it's essential. And deep down, you already know that. You feel it when you're pushed to be soft, when your instincts are telling you to be strong. You see it when responsibility is treated like a burden instead of a badge of honor. Traditional masculinity isn't about outdated rules or being stuck in the past. It's about timeless traits. Discipline, courage, honor, and leadership. That makes men dangerous in the best ways possible. These are the values that build strong families, protect the weak, and conquer chaos. If you're a man who refuses to be tamed by society's mixed messages, then you're exactly the kind of man that I built my private coaching program for. It's for men who want to lead, protect, and dominate in their lane. Use the first link in the description to join now. Because the world needs strong men now more than ever, and it starts with you. Let's break it down. Here's why traditional masculinity still matters today. 1. Strength is still a requirement, not an option. Look, no one is coming to save you. That's the first lesson every man has to learn. When things go wrong, whether it's your family, your business, or your personal life, the burden will fall on your shoulders. That's not unfair. That's just life. And that's why strength, mental, physical, and emotional, isn't just an outdated idea. It's a requirement. Traditional masculinity doesn't sugarcoat that truth. It embraces it. It tells you that strength is your job. It's your duty. And not just for yourself, your woman, your children, your community. They're all counting on you, whether they say it out loud or not. Now, in today's culture, we've been sold the idea that showing any kind of toughness is somehow toxic. But let's be honest, a man without strength isn't peaceful. He's just harmless. And there's a big difference between being peaceful and being incapable of violence. The man who's capable of destruction but chooses discipline, that's the man people respect. It builds confidence. It makes you harder to kill, harder to manipulate, and harder to replace. And let's not pretend women aren't biologically drawn to that kind of man. You can either buy the lie that masculinity is the problem, or you can just become the man who fixes the problems. It's your call. Leadership isn't optional. It's expected. Every man is a leader, whether he accepts it or not. You're leading someone, your friends, your girlfriend, your coworker, even just by example. The only question is, are you leading them somewhere worth going? Traditional masculinity puts leadership at the center of manhood. And leadership doesn't mean barking orders or having some kind of title. It means taking initiative, owning the outcome, standing tall when others fold. It means being a man people look to when the pressure's on and the stakes are high. In today's world, a lot of men have been trained to shrink back, to go with the flow, to be passive, to wait for someone else to make the hard decision. That's weakness disguised as politeness, and it never works. When you embrace traditional masculinity, you stop outsourcing leadership. You step up. You create direction in chaos. You become the rock others can lean on, not the dead weight that they have to carry. The men who win in life aren't just reacting to what happens. They're shaping what happens. And that starts by owning the responsibility of leadership without whining, without asking and waiting for permission, and without apologizing for being in charge. Discipline builds the foundation of a man's life. Here's something that no one wants to admit. The version of you that you respect most, he only shows up when you're disciplined. Discipline is the multiplier of every masculine trait you want: strength, confidence, control, and influence. Without discipline, all of these crumble. Traditional masculinity treats discipline like a lifestyle, not a short-term tactic. You wake up early not because it's trendy, but because there's work to get done. You say no to cheap pleasure, not because you're a monk, but because you're aiming at something bigger. And you stick to your word, not because it's convenient, but because your word is your bond. Discipline is the difference between a boy who reacts and a man who leads. It separates the masculine from the mediocre. Modern culture creates indulgence. Scroll more, drink more, give in more. But traditional masculinity demands to build your house on a solid rock. And that's exactly what we build inside my private coaching program. If you want to stop making excuses and finally build the discipline that earns you respect, results, and real power, then join us. Use the first link in the description down below. The world doesn't reward comfort, it rewards commitment. So step up. Masculine men protect what matters. One of the most misunderstood aspects of traditional masculinity is this. It's not about control, it's about protection. A masculine man doesn't dominate to feel superior, though he can do that. He dominates to keep others safe. His strength is a shield, not a whip, whether it's your woman, your kids, your family, or your team. A man's job is to protect. That means physically, yes, but it also means protecting them emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. You set the tone. You build the standards. You draw the line in the sand and say, this far, no further. Now, protection isn't always glamorous. Sometimes it's getting up for work when you're tired. Sometimes it's saying no to temptation when no one else will know. Sometimes it's having the hard conversation that others are too scared to have. That's what real protection looks like. It's not a fantasy, it's a fight. And you can't protect anything if you're weak, passive, or unsure of who you are. You need a backbone. You need standards. You need direction. Traditional masculinity gives you all three. It calls you into a role where your strength serves others. That's not something to be ashamed of, it's something to be proud of. Masculinity brings order to chaos. Let's be honest. The world is messy, and it's not getting any clearer. Every man today is surrounded by noise, by distraction, by chaos, whether it's political confusion, cultural shifts, or personal uncertainty. If you don't know who you are, you'll get swept away. But traditional masculinity gives you a compass. It tells you how to think, how to act, and how to lead when others are lost. It gives you order, not because you're trying to control everything, but because you're grounded in principles that don't change. Order doesn't mean life is perfect. It means you know your role, your values, and your direction. You don't fold under pressure. You don't chase trends. You don't need validation. You walk your path with clarity and conviction. Masculine men create order through their structure, their boundaries, and their decision making. And in a chaotic world, that's rare. That's valuable. That's what makes you irreplaceable as a man. Because while everyone else is distracted by comfort, you're building a legacy. You're building something that lasts. Here's the truth that you won't hear in most places. Traditional masculinity is not the problem, it's the solution. The world needs strong men, disciplined men, grounded men, men who carry responsibility, who lead from the front, and are not afraid to be exactly who they were made to be. If you're tired of being told to tone down, if you're done with feeling like you have to apologize for being masculine, and if you're ready to sharpen every trait that makes you powerful as a man, then my private coaching program is where you need to be. It's built for men who want more out of life and who are ready to build it the hard way, the sure way, the way that has worked for thousands of years. Join by using the first link in the description below, and let's get to work. Now ask yourself, are you just existing? Or are you building the kind of man who commands respect without ever saying a word? Choose wisely. I'll see you on the other side.